Today on the show, I have Jason Dashney. His company is called Epic Energy. They are a turnkey wind turbine installation, construction, and maintenance company. He's president of the company, and we were just talking about how the technology is changing so fast in the renewable energy space. So, Jason, in a 17-year career in the space, what have you been seeing happen?
So over the years, what we've been seeing is a steady growth. So 20 years ago, we would see smaller growth competing with oil and gas and not being mainstream. And now, come in the past 5 years, we've really seen an uptick in growth and the importance of it through all these other different companies that want to buy and invest and be part of the renewable space. So it's a mass influx of different kinds of renewable energy generation, storage, all these types of things. So it's keeping up on top of that type of stuff that really, it's really keeping the market pushing forward.
So, how are you keeping on top of it?
Training, learning, being out there, staying in front of your clients, staying in front of the tech, really spending a lot of time, with clients at trade shows, in front of manufacturers, listening to the developers, what's important for the output of the energy, how things in terms of energy is being stored. So all the new tech that's coming to market, that's coming to light, is so new. So for example, green hydrogen, that's the new flavor. It seems like the biggest thing, the biggest play out there, and it's massive, but people are starting to focus on it. It's like, how do you tie that in? So it's coupling wind with green hydrogen and then battery storage, but then all the other things that go with it. It's like, okay, so battery storage, what does that mean? Well, that means a larger mining influx to be able to support that market. So there's many things that affect the downstream of renewables and how it's fed in terms of manufacturing and whatnot. So really it's picking a lane and figuring out what's important, because there's just so much. There's so much money being thrown at it. There's so much excitement. There's so much demand politically and ethically. So if you listen to the Googles of the world, how much power they require to power their infrastructure. Where do they get that from? Well, they need to be sustainable. So they're an end user, but what do? They buy the generators, the farms, the wind farms, the solar farms to to offset their carbon footprint and to get the tax credits. So there's many things that we're doing to try and be educated enough and be in the right space at the right time and have the right people, the right tech, the right training to be able to stay on top of it and grow a business.
In your time now in renewables, has wind turbines always been the focus, or did that just come more recently?
No, wind turbines have been my primary focus since inception, since I started doing this business, and it's the offshoots of what that's created. So wind was my primary focus. Now there's other lanes like solar that generate their power, clean power. Then it's the storage piece. So everything that I'm currently doing has been fed by being in the wind space.
So, what about the wind space do you like so much?
I've always called it the big show. So in our space, what we do is we're doing the big lifts. We have the technicians that climb to the tops of the towers. They put the components together. The components, as I mentioned, are getting bigger, larger, more technical. So we have the biggest focus. So not to discount anything else, but when we're building a wind farm, particularly, you have the infrastructure pieces like the civil work. So that's dirt work, building roads, access, and whatnot, as well as the underground trenching, the cabling, the substation stuff. That's the sort of stuff that's done on a day-to-day basis around the world when they're building roads for highways. You see it all the time. So it's not so exciting. What interests me and always has is the big cranes, the big lifts, the big show. That's always been interesting and exciting, not just for us as business owners or representatives of the industry. It's for the public. It's always awe-inspiring to see blades go by down the highway. Well, now the blades once were 40 meters, now they're 80 meters long. So we're dealing with massive components that no one really knows. I mean, not no one, but we're trying to figure out unique ways of transporting things to site. They're so big, they're so large, they're so heavy, right? So that's always kept me interested and excited. And the storage of the power that we produce is also interesting because it's technology, but not as exciting as the big stuff.
So what do you feel when you drive down the road and you see a bunch of wind turbines?
Just pure excitement. It's always interesting. So when you drive by sites, like, oh, did we build that one, or do we maintain that one? Are we working on that one? What kind of turbines are they? What technology it is? So for me, it's always processing what I'm looking at, what the turbine heights are, what the blade lengths are, how old are they? Comparing, for example, driving through California, they've had a long-standing history of wind turbines, so they've been up 30, 40 years, and the technology's changed. So there's some old stuff that's been around so long compared to the new stuff, and you get to see it in one space. So driving down a highway in California is really interesting.
Where do you see the sector going over the next few years?
Based on current forecasts and what we're seeing with government initiatives, particularly in North America, I mean, it's a global thing for sure in terms of climate change and whatnot. We're seeing that being more prevalent now. But what we're seeing from the government is a real influx of the eagerness and the commitment to the policy and to investing dollars. So whether that's tax credits or hard dollars, incentive programs, whatever that is, we're seeing a lot of that. In the U.S. markets, the IRA and other, that's going to create billions and billions in influx over the next 5-10 years. So I'm sure people have seen 2030 as a number. Like, we got to get to this place by 2030. I mean, it's a round number, so everyone likes to use it. So given where we're at over the next 6-7 years, we're going to see a massive influx of renewable projects of all sorts all over the place, and finding different and unique ways to deploy that technology. So for example, it could be in more remote places, offsetting diesel consumption in indigenous communities in the north and around the world. So it's how do you bring that to areas that are not so technically advanced. And so over the next 5-10 years, we're going to see a complete shift in how power is produced and distributed. But always a limiting factor is going to be the transmission. So we can build and build and build, but how do you transmit that power? And then as well, the demand for that power is growing higher because of the offset between the consumption of fuel and battery. And so as we see more EVs come on the road, it's how do you transmit enough power from those projects to the end user, which is the vehicle. The limiting factor is always the grid. There's not enough grid space to get the power to where it needs to be so that we can electrify everything. And so the way I see it going is yeah, we're going to have major projects, but smart city technology is going to have to be implemented to have localized power grids so that there's not an over demand for the current infrastructure that's in place. And that's what we're seeing. We look at California as a market. There's continual brownouts, blackouts, and that's just because there's not enough to go around, right? So, and we add more things. We add more electric everything, whether that's your lawnmower at home being electric, your vehicle, and all sorts of other things that we are looking at, cell phones and computers and all the things that we're adding that are electric. We need to find a way to get the power to those things. So over the next years, that's going to be a crunch for the market for sure.
Would you say the U.S. is currently in an energy crisis?
The way I see it, yes, I would say that they're definitely in a crisis of some sort, and it's more particularly based around the places that can't get the power. There's high population. California is always a good example.
So if we don't improve the grid fast enough, we could be seeing more of these brownouts, blackouts, things like that.
Absolutely. Because there's no way to get the power to where it needs to be. So how do you push more power through a system that won't take any more power? But you want to draw more power from that system because the policy says you need to have an electric vehicle. So how do you take that power from a place where you can't get it? So the push is EV because it's a thing where it's easy, just in layman's terms. You want to offset the pollution that you create by driving a gas vehicle. Natural way of thinking is let's get an EV. But what we don't think about is how that power comes to us. It's just consume more, and then we're left with a big deficit.
So do you think there's a lot of opportunity to, let's say, build businesses that address fixing the grid?
I would say, yeah. There's definitely an opportunity to have more businesses that do that for sure. Yeah,
So you've been in the space 17 years,
yeah,
and have you had multiple companies throughout that time?
yeah. Same, doing the same thing. Mostly same
So
same things.
in the theme of failing to success, have they all worked?
You know what? Yeah, they all have worked. They all have worked. However, there's been a lot of challenges along the way. There's been failures. There's been successes, and really in terms of like the technology play and how things have evolved. You think you're bidding on something that, but you actually don't know because the tech's changed and you're maybe not bidding it correctly. And so that's why it's a constant learning process.
So the biggest struggle that you've experienced is that technology just changing too quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
The
That's
recurring theme, at least.
yeah. The yeah. Absolutely. Tech change is a big thing for sure. Yeah.
So, what would your advice be to, let's say, new entrepreneurs or young entrepreneurs wanting to get into the space?
Know what you're getting into before you get into it. And so many times people get into it and think they know what they're bidding on and know what they're doing, and they really don't. So it's taking the time to understand what it is you're getting into, and spending the time to learn the tech and learn what it takes to do what we're doing in this market, and really understanding how the business works, how the industry works, what are the important things. The biggest thing is one of the bigger things is people in this business, and I think it's resounding across markets. There's not enough people to go around to build all the stuff that we're trying to build. There's not enough there's not enough qualified, trained individuals to actually build out all this stuff. So it's always a challenge to get the right people to do the job. So new entrepreneurs trying to get into this, it's always how do you get the people? And even as a business owner that's been around a long time, it's still hard to get people that are good at what they do and want to do it because things have changed so much in the market. And again, I think it's resounding across all markets, oil and gas or whatever. How do you get enough people to do the work? How do you get enough people to build houses and build things and be trained? It's a problem. So there's lots of opportunities, there's lots of good opportunity, but how do you get enough people to actually build it out? So so I've talked about the tech being one of the roadblocks or one of the things to be aware of, but the other big thing is people. And then aside from people, it's having the right equipment and enough equipment to be able to perform this stuff, to install, to construct and operate.
Yeah, and we're in a recessionary environment where the idea is that the unemployment rate should start to rise further than it has.
Mm.
For all those people who are thinking about doing their next thing, the energy sector needs people, and when a sector needs people, they're willing to pay. So
Okay.
you have some job security.
That's right. Yeah, you know what? And we've been through recessions over the time that I've been in this industry, and it's not changed. It's not stopped. You're producing power. It's clean power. There's a demand for it. It's a very good career for individuals that are looking to get into something it has a positive spin on it. You know, right? It's something it's respected. It's up and coming. It's interesting, and there's a long future in it. So for people that are looking for different careers or different opportunities, there's many facets of that business and industry that are a good fit for all individuals, whether that's in the construction space or the project management space or the office or support or safety. It's all part of what we do, and there's a lot of opportunity for people that want to change or want to do something different.
So, Jason, if one of our listeners wanted to get in touch with Epic Energy or yourself, how could they do so?
They can go to our website, which is epic-energy.com, where they can send me an email, jason@epic-energy.com, and let me know what they're thinking in terms of whether it's opportunities to get into the market. I can connect them to the right people for employment or for opportunities to work together on some stuff, to collaborate on ideas and different ways we can do business together. I'm open to really having a discussion. Given my experience in the industry, I'm more than happy to share my experiences with individuals looking to get into it, or just toss around some ideas. So more than happy to do that.
And that's Epic spelled EPIK.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason, for coming on the show. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Failing to Success. I'm Chad Kalecki with Cosmic Web Design and Development. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.